everybody, good morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips, also known as the Puppy Show. We know this is the only reason you guys show up. Yeah, so how are you all? I don't have an analogy today, although I considered it. I considered the analogy, but yeah. It's the Puppy Show, Quinty. You know that's the only reason they show up, right? And yeah, I'll be trying to post stuff from the road, guys. I mean, I've got my phone and Discord's on my phone, so it's very easy. I will definitely be making a post on the Patreon, for sure, a public post about the new puppy with a picture. So once I know who is ours, because I'll have all day Sunday while the puppy party goes on and everything else. I'll have all day Sunday to get a good picture of the puppy. And Bridget wants a picture of me with the puppies, so because the breeder always usually does. Good deal. All right, wink. We'll just go over to this. Oh, I suppose that for those of you who are awesome and early, you can have something special. Something very, very special. Wait, let me find it. Let me find it. I need to find the special thing. There it is. There it is. Now I need to get it big. And now I need to go back so we can all see it. This is a little light up music ball. There we go. There, you all get something special. You all get the puppies playing with the light up music ball. Except Percy really, really loved the ball. He's the one who's going crazy. He's definitely excited and playing with it. He's actually not trying to eat it, despite all appearances to the contrary. Yeah, so, and I think that's little Vex in the background. My fave. My favorite, still my favorite. My favorite from 2 weeks old, pretty much. So we'll see. We'll see if that's the one I get or if I don't. This is the great suspense. The great suspense starts now, guys. I have 1 day. This time tomorrow, I will be on a plane, heading to Minneapolis by way of Phoenix, and then driving to North Dakota because, you know, epic puppy road trip is epic. All right, I'm going to pop some of this over here. So let's see, what do we want to do today? Oh, no, did I lose my glasses? Yes, I took them in. Oh, nope, they're hiding. They're hiding in plain sight. So yeah, I will not be on tomorrow. I will not be on Saturday on my own stream. I will be posting on my Patreon, a public post, so anybody can see it. Once I get the pupper, I'll probably also be posting on my Facebook. I will try to also post on the Discord, although if you're on the Discord, then you're on the Patreon, so you should get the update anyway. But yeah. Yeah. So now we have to decide what we're doing today. What are we doing today? I think I want to do some highlighting on this purple before I start doing the freehand on it. Up here it was easier because it's a pretty flat panel, so I didn't feel like I needed to do a lot. Although I do want to kind of trim down some of this as well. And I do feel like I need some highlights in the purple here. I am considering actually doing like a tiny orange panel in the middle of this because I can, right? I've broken it up with all this freehand. So that's an option. Let's see here. Gets our Imperial Purple out. No, it wasn't that at all, Pendrake. It was that I could not get a rental car. Because of COVID and the supply issues with like cars, so rental car companies especially, like they almost went under during the pandemic, so they reduced their fleets drastically. So that fleet reduction is still in operation, you know, still the problem today. And so all of the rental cars in Fargo, I mean 100% of the rental cars in Fargo were already booked when I went to book my flight. And I have to have a rental car to drive the puppy back to California. So instead, I must fly into Minneapolis, 3 hours away, and drive to Bridget's. So it's going to be a very long day for me tomorrow. Very long day. So please send your thoughts and fingers crossed wishes for, you know, good connection flights and all the everythings. And also that Anne's brain isn't too fried for the 3-hour road trip. Yeah, it's purely the rental car. I would have much rather flown into Fargo, trust me, guys. If I'd flown into Fargo, I would have saved so much money because I wouldn't have had to get the rental car 2 days before I needed it. Bridget would have picked me up from the airport instead. I would have been there so much earlier. I could have seen the puppies on Friday. Yeah, we'll just blame COVID. Blame COVID. Hashtag. So let's see. Let's get a highlight color mixed up. Did I even work on? Yeah, I did work on highlighting the purple on him before. Let's see here. I think I want some Runic Glow and some Amethyst Purple. These two colors, usually I use a mixture of these two colors if I'm highlighting purple. You can also use skin tones. But for him, we're trying to keep things a little more saturated, a little more bright and intense. So I'm pretty much going to do a mix of 2 drops of Imperial Purple with 1 drop of Amethyst and 1 drop of Runic Glow. The pigment in Runic Glow, other than white, is mostly magenta, which is, of course, the secret to highlighting purples in a pretty gem-like way. But yeah, so this is going to be the great puppy adventure of 2022. The Great Puppy Adventure. And I'll be trying to, hopefully everything will work out. So I'm not actually using white to highlight the purple at all, you'll notice, just yet. I want to cut it with a couple of other things. Alrighty. Now when you don't do this, you get more of a, if you use skin tones to highlight purple, you get more of a washed out highlight like this on the leg of the model. Although I brought a lot of skin tone in there because I wanted it to be skin showing through the sheer leggings. But same thing holds true. If you want a more intense highlight like I've got on the other parts of the purple, then you want to use something with more magenta in it. I believe with this one I'm using a mixture of red and magenta, because I have a colder red pigment, because I was using scale color for that. The V for victory. Yeah. You know, every pup is perfect. It's just which pup is perfect for you. I think that's the thing that people don't understand, is that every pup's a wonderful pup. But every pup may not be the best pup for your lifestyle and your family. And I think that's why I like our program, in that it acknowledges that that is the case, and it tries to match people to puppies as best it can. All right, so I'm mixing up this color, and this is what it ends up looking like. I'm going to mix a little bit of my purple back into that, and I feel like I maybe have it a little thin, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, the best thing here is to hopefully get the puppy that I want. And when you apply to get a puppy from a Shiloh breeder in our organization, you fill out a puppy application that asks you a lot of questions about your lifestyle and what you want to do with the pup. So should you ever get a puppy from a breeder who asks you these type of questions, I'd advise you to be as honest as you possibly can, because it can only help you. It can only help you get the best pup for you. I'm going to do a big brushful, 2 big brushfuls of this now, 1 drop of the Runic Glow, and I'm going to add a tiny bit of pure white, like half a drop. I want to have a couple of highlights already mixed up, because you all know I like to do kind of spot wet blends too. So this is going to move it a little bit pinker. But I also can, it's also thicker paint, so I'm going to actually mix it back into here. And then we'll throw some water into that. But yeah, so, and then there's the fact that I am technically still a licensed breeder with the organization, so this puppy, if she passes all of her health and temperament testing, will have puppies herself someday and help our gene pool. So I have to also choose based on physical and social traits that are like Shiloh's, right? Are most like what we would want in our breed. So yeah. All those things on the shoulders of one tiny puppy who will not care. Who will not care at all. But yeah, so I'm going to start by bringing in some highlight up here just to kind of test my highlight sequence. On the sleeve, I'm going to come down. Let's come down so we can actually see what we're doing. There we go. And this model is so dark, he just shows up a little better if I pop the black base under him. Even with the cream color and the white, he's still really dark. And I'm going to pop a highlight up the top of that and see. Vex, yeah, if you, it's all characters from Critical Role. Oh yeah, and Vex has the V, yes. Technically, I think it was a W, but it's more of a V now. So it's either win or victory. Either way it works. They all have something on their chest except for Keyleth. Keyleth has no white spot on her chest. Pike has a white blaze. So one thing I could also do is shade down on the purple here. I'm going to pop some highlights in, and then I'm going to see if I want to do that. I do have a little bit too much puddling going on there. And my paint is a little bit too thick to blend right. You can see that you can really see the edge there. So we can actually bring in some of our base coat and try to do a little bit of a blend there. And we can also just thin the paint a bit more. It's easy to kind of look at the paint and go, oh my god, this is so thin, it can't possibly be the right consistency. But chances are your paint is too thick for blending, layering. Like, especially when you're starting out. And the opposite end of the spectrum, if your paint isn't too thick, it's almost certainly too thin. I did it, I had it very much the opposite way. Because I was very studiously reading everybody's, and look at the puddling I'm getting here. See that puddle? So that means I've still got too much paint on my brush. This is why if you find yourself that you're impatient, it does pay to kind of get good at spot wet blends, because it lets you set up things much faster. These are pretty narrow folds, but I'm going to go horizontal on this guy. And I really just want to get some highlights on this area before I start blocking in, because the scroll work that we're doing up here is actually going to be dark on these bottom panels, I think. Yeah, Bridget is in love with Keyleth. That's the one that she adores as her breeder's bias. But I am a little bit more impressed with the other two girls. So we may yet get Pike. We'll see. Pike has the temperament I want. Like, she's got that kind of aloof, really couldn't care too much about strangers' temperament, which I do enjoy in a dog. Dog that's not always going to be distracted and trying to get all up on strangers. So yeah, we'll see. So that's lightened it up a lot. Like, I've lightened that entire surface, but that will enable like a dark freehand to show up better. So that's kind of part of why I'm doing this. That and the fact that it's very hard to get in and shade and highlight once you're started to do all the freehand. I am going to narrow up a lot of this freehand and get it. I've decided it's a little bit too bold, so I'm going to come back in with my purple today and really trim this up and make it as thin and fine as I can get. Yeah, I did. Iron Joker. We're working on this is going to be a World of Warcraft cape, like that kind of design. So I had looked up. I decided I want something fancy because this wizard guy he kind of looks like he's a merchant wizard. Like he really, to me, he looks like he's very prosperous. And let's see if I can find my pictures. So many pictures. And there we go. Something like this. So essentially this freehand part at the top, I based the shapes on the top part of the cloak here. I just squished them a lot and changed them a bit. And then the bottom part, we're a little bit close here. The bottom part, I'm going to try to do something more like that. Although, of course, I've got two sides to it. So I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do it. And what I'll probably do here, since I've got this big, since I've got this big area, I will take this center chevron around this glowy gem thing, and I'll probably just do that down the center, like with the little tongue that goes down here and these little hooks and the little crystals hanging off, like that sort of thing. I'll probably extrapolate from that for the center part, and then I'll play with this area, this sort of thing for the outside purple area. So even when the cape design you choose doesn't have a lot to do with the shape of the cape you're actually painting, there are still always ways to just like extrapolate from it. Just look at the shapes and figure out that you want to break them up. Oh, I wouldn't want to do that, Pendrake. That's not the miniature. If I was going to do, like, I would, like, have planned to do a specific model for that. Yeah, that's not my shtick. I'm always, apart from anything happening in my real life, my miniatures are always, like, worlds in themselves. It's very rare for me to do a tribute miniature to something in my real life, although it has happened, certainly. I mean, I did do a Kiri with staccato figurine, but I plan a very logical figurine. I would consider doing that on this model to be messing it up. It's not part of this character. That is very against anything I would do. But yeah, that's part of why part of my attraction to miniatures is just that it's a world outside of me. I use these things to usually get away from real life, not necessarily to, you know, for a little bit of an escape to a different character or scene. But yeah, but this guy is very, I don't know if he's a puppy person. I think he's a cat person, personally. He's too fastidious. He's too fastidious to be a dog person. Like, a puppy would be chewing his magic carpet inventory to bits in no time, frankly. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Iron Joker. He could be a Drake type. Like if he had a little dragon on his shoulder, that would be very I could see that. I could absolutely see that. So here's where if you want to do wet blending, you could do it. Little spot wet blend just to get these two colors kind of together. Yeah, I mean, drakes and cats aren't that far apart, right? I'm sure you've got a dragon costume for your cat, right, Kariniko? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Right. A dragon is just a really big cat. Yep, we just don't have a cat dragon. I do have a winged kitty. We could put a winged kitty on his base with him. I think I mentioned maybe using a familiar on this guy. I do actually have a winged cat, but it's a feathered winged cat, not a drake winged cat. It's not a true dragon, cat dragon like the Christmas tree cat dragon. Come in with my sideways brush stroke. And if I want to go fast and dirty on this, I can. I'm going to leave brush strokes if I do it that way, but I'm going to have to glaze and do stuff. But yeah, I definitely see this guy as a cat owner. Like on his giant traveling, like flying carpet, he has a little pavilion to hide the litter box, right? Although if you have a winged cat, the cat can leave the flying carpet and, like, you know. Yeah. I mean, there's one in the Christmas tree, but I'm not sure. I don't own. If there's a newer cat dragon, then I don't have it. I do have the old winged cat, though, which I am very fond of. I just found it the other day, so I even know where it is. Because I had to dig up a fox for David to use. And I gave him the choice of all the familiars that I had, which isn't very many. I do have a drake. I have the Werner Clock drake that's sitting upright. And I have a winged kitty. I could see either with this guy. There we go. So we've got a little bit. You can see I've definitely got, like, you can see that it's not perfectly blended here, but it's a decent start. And I'm going to make sure it comes all the way down to the point I want. And then if I want to blend it in, the easiest thing to do is to come at it from the opposite direction. But first I'm going to get this little fold down here. You know, I think that most people paint them for gaming, Ron, but I think that most people who, like, come on our streams and everything seem to also paint for display or just for fun. It's you know, it's a bit of both. I know that when I first started with Reaper, we were really kind of looking at whether people were mostly painting for gaming or for just painting, right? Because I was very much more of a pure painter, and yeah, Reaper was interested in kind of figuring out the demographic there. Mercurix is a bit big too. Sorry, getting my phone out of the way here. I left it open. Okay. But what we found, Ron, is that there are pretty strong signals that a lot of people are painting for display. At least back in, like, the 2004, 2005, 2006 time, what we noticed is that our best-selling models in Dark Heaven were very much not a model that everybody's going to be playing as a character. Like, our best-selling model for a long time was a female paladin. And you can't tell me there are that many female paladins. Like it's a model that definitely, especially with the demographic at that time, I would have been very surprised. Like, some of them were no doubt player characters, but most of them were selling just because it was a really nice model. It was a really cool model. I think that was Elaine, female paladin. Then Fenari, of course, was also a female paladin that sold very well. And so when that model hit #1, that was a big sign to us that a lot of people were buying our models for not for purely for role playing, but also for just to paint them because they were cool. So I think you do have people who are painting for gaming, but who will also pick up a model just because it's cool, and they'll decide to maybe use that model as an NPC or something. Like, so you definitely have that kind of thing going on. And it's hard. It's always hard to, like, survey your demographic, like, because the people who fill out surveys are our sub demographic of your demographic, right? So the best you can do is look at sales data. and see. Um, right, yeah, you're both. Right. Hey, Nomad Zeke, I see that. I see that. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Triple sub anniversary, triple sub anniversary, triple sub anniversary. Happy triple sub anniversary. There you are. 36 amazing months. Thank you. Awesome. But yeah, so I feel like now though, okay, keep in mind that since that time, the demographic has shifted again, and it shifted because of Bones. Because Bones made it possible for gamers to afford more miniatures. And I think I see that. Yeah, so now, Ron, I'm pretty sure that it's swung very heavily back into the gaming thing. Like, quite a bit. I would probably, if I had to guesstimate, I'd say maybe a 30-70 split. I'd say a lot of people picking up, like 70% of people who are our current customers are picking up our models for D&D. And 30% are picking up our models like because they just love to paint and they like our models. Um, and you know it could be swingy, and obviously some people do both. Like I said, you've got GMs who are picking up who just like to paint and who will just pick up something to paint it because they really like it, and they'll just think I'll use it in a game someday, or I'll use this person as an NPC, or this will become the big baddie, stuff like that. Say right. And you guys though are a very specific demographic, right? You're watching this show, and many of you watch the show because you're working on becoming a better painter. And not to say that people who paint for gaming aren't doing that, but it's more likely to I think see someone watching this show who's interested in improving because they really like to paint. Like most of the people I know who paint for gaming, they want to get to a point where their players are like, ooh, wow, that's cool, and then they're happy. Um, And then there's also, like I said, many of you paint for both. And so you're interested in getting better because you want to learn to paint better for your own pleasure and to just paint prettier things. But then, it'll kind of translate over to your gaming models, some of it. I'm going to pop a little highlight up here. One thing that I did mention earlier, I'm going to mention it again, is to keep in mind that even if your blends aren't perfect, once you put freehand over a surface, it hides a lot of sins. Freehand is very distracting to the eye. The eye isn't going to be able to really pay attention to how good your blending is underneath once we put freehand on this surface. So if you don't have perfect blending, popping a little freehand over it will disguise that fact. Yeah, it's a very real. I mean, that's why I really got to like the hobby, is that I stress out pretty easily, I've come to realize over the years, and this is a very relaxing, it's very zen hobby. There we go. All right, so nice, pretty good there. And I'll get the edge here with a little bit of a lighter color. So we've got some highlights and shadows on the cape. I'll feel a little bit better about freehanding it. But I definitely am going to come in and thin down the freehand up here to make it look finer. And this is like the easiest way to do that, like to block in your freehand design and then to come back with the background color and just kind of thin down all your lines. Is easier than trying to do a precise, very thin line out the gate. So a little bit more light up at the top there. But yeah, I feel like because of Bones making the hobby cheaper again, that we have a lot of DMs are able to pick up bigger monsters because Bones is less expensive. And then, of course, you do have the fact that we've been kind of a destination for player character models for a very long time as far as our buyer base. So that'd be my personal guess. But you know what? Finding out that there were more display painters out there, or finding out that there were even more gamers would not surprise me at all. I think Reaper sees a very small portion of its demographics show up on its social media. There we go. So that's nice. And this is a little bit rocky down here, so what we can do is take our original color and blend back into it using the same brush stroke but from the opposite direction. And that will fade in that section a little bit. There. All right. Neaten that up. Ha! Yeah, if you're going to grab that kid, then the least you can do is paint it. Hey there, Lady Nim. Yeah, we're just talking about how much of Reaper's demographic is display painters and how much are probably hobby painters, like, or D&D gaming, that kind of thing. All right, so I've got my purple, and I'm pretty much just going to paint inside of the white and try to make the white a little bit less and the purple a little bit more. So I want to keep my shapes as much as I can, but I want to thin them down so that they're a bit more elegant and leaving a bit more purple. The nice thing about the Baba Yaga hut is that you can do it very fast. With all that texture and the size of it, it's very easy to dry brush. And it's also a great candidate for weathering. So you can make it look good with just a little bit of effort. So thinning down, introducing more purple. I'm going to do one side and thin it as much as I can, then we can look at the comparison. I believe that is definitely your internet or Twitch, Twistedoma. I did not go anywhere. So essentially, it's a little bit easier. Like I said, once you've got your lines in place, it's easier to just thin them down by adding in the color, the background color around the edges. And it's because it's very hard to do an intricate design with really thin lines out the gate, because you're worrying about the design itself, and then you're worrying about keeping your lines super thin and still keeping them very accurate. And so doing it this way, kind of in reverse, gives you a bit more. So it's very crowded over here, but it's starting to open up more over here. Oh, interesting, Quinny. Yeah. So have you ever been tempted to play Quindy, or is it just not something that's for you? So we're thinning that down, we're thinning this down. And it's possible to get your white lines very, very thin indeed as you work at it. And then let's get the bottom of this. Zero interest, yeah. Oh, this is a classic. This is the first purple I formulated for Master Series. This is Imperial Purple, 9023. Highlighted up by adding in Runic Glow and Amethyst Purple. And a little bit of white at the end. But yeah, this is a good classic purple, I would say. Oh, up here it gets a little dicey just because you're in between these little shapes, but I can still get that figured in. I'm gonna try to thin down my little curly Q here. So now what we've got, if you look, is this looks almost fuzzy. And this is much sharper, and you can see more of the purple over here, you see? 3,000 pre-prime? No, 3,000 is wait, do you mean 30,000? 3,000 series is Dark Heaven. 30,000 is because remember it's not 3,000 and then a 7. It's actually 30,007. But Bones USA are not pre-primed. They're dark gray, and yeah, you want to wash them. And I always say prime them if they're metal, but I don't prime my bones at all. I just wash them in hot water and a bit of dish soap, and then I rinse them thoroughly and let them dry out on a paper towel, usually overnight. And yeah, then I just paint. I find the paint adheres just fine to them, using a mix of about 5-to-1 paint to water or 4-to-1 paint to water, depending on the color. So hopefully you guys can see the difference, like just between these two sides, as far as how much purple looks like. This has a lot of white, and this is starting to be purple. And by thinning the lines, notice how it looks more intricate. It looks less clunky. So that's why you would do this. Yeah, nothing is pre-primed. Pre-priming, man, I don't think anybody's well, other than the Nolzur's miniatures from Wizards of the Coast. I don't think anybody's pre-primed their models since like Mithril and Thunderbolt Mountain back in the day, a long time ago. It's really not worth it because unless you use a super gooky primer, it's gonna rub off in the packaging, and if you use a super gooky primer, then you've got to fight against that super gooky primer when you're trying to prep it. So thinning down all my lines again. Get this one all thinned down. Now what this will allow me to do is to highlight a bit of this purple, bring out some of these areas, make some lighter and darker areas without feeling like I'm crowding it. But yeah, I mean, bones are very, as far as prep goes, very low prep. No priming, just washing. You can prime if you want to, just pay attention that some primers don't react well. There's threads. I think Rhonda has a big thread on the forum or an article about using primers with bones. And so you might want to check that out before you think about priming bones, otherwise don't. I just find the paint sticks just fine, so I don't bother with the priming. If they change their formulation at some point and I couldn't just paint on the model, then I'd have to figure out what primer would work. but many spray primers will not work. There we go. So that's nice. That's much nicer. It looks more crisp and thinner. Yes, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. The forum post. Quindy posted to the forum post on priming. Yes, you made it, Shadow Raven. You made it. I use spray and primer all the time, but then I work on a lot of resin. I paint a lot of resin models. And of course I prime the metal models that we work on here on the stream. Definitely you want to prime your metal, because otherwise the paint will not stick. There we go. I want to make this a little bit lower. Shiny. Nice. All right. Let's extrapolate our pattern for the orange, which is going to be done in a dark color. We're kind of alternating here. I'm going to see how this works out at the end of everything. Let's see here. There it is. Alrighty, so looking at this area here and that. So kind of just looking at this, and I have to break it down into basic shapes. So the first thing that I'm going to start with here is probably this shape right here. It's a central shape, and it's with this sort of thing, since you don't know how much room you're going to eventually have on the sides, it's good to start with the shape in the middle if there is a defined shape in the middle and just work out from that. Yeah, brush on is good because it avoids environmental effects. So yeah, so let's, I often will draw this out on a sticky note or on a piece of cardstock. So then I'm going to start with kind of a horned shape, because these are almost like horns, and then there's the long shape. There's a little curlicue in the middle, and then there are whiskers coming off the sides. And then there's little things dangling from little ears. So I don't know if we're going to do the little dangly, like crystally things, but I'm going to at least get this shape. Hey, Dwarving. Nice. I hope you like them. Remember to thin them less, Dwarving. Remember to thin. They don't take as much thinning to get to where you can use them. So, guys, we're going to do a shape that's kind of like, almost like an animal, like a shield, like a long, narrow shield shape is what we're going to start with here, because we're doing this shape right here. It's got feet, or little thingies at the top, and then it goes down. You probably could curve it, and so we're going to do that in the middle, and we're going to probably give it the little hooks coming in from the sides, just like it is. It's got here. And then it's got the little whiskers and the little ears. So we'll give it little ears. And then we'll plan to do a couple sets of whiskers. And we're going to start with that. Oh, it's fine. I got the card right here, Dwarving. Ta-da. It's Damras Deverell Wizard 30,007 Bones USA. Or Reaper Legends, as they call it now, I think. Yeah. So it's a wizard. It's a cool wizard dude with scroll, and I'm doing him kind of arabesque. Thinking about putting him on a flying carpet, and making a flying carpet design on his scroll as well. So yeah. There we go. Quindy with the link. He's a real nice model. He's got all these fancy clothes on, so we're using World of Warcraft patterns to make a fancy cloak for him. Fancy cloak design, because I haven't done a really complex extrapolated freehand for a while, so done from a real world reference. Not since I think Lizette's tree, and that was a lot more organic. This is a lot more symmetrical and geometric. So, all right, now I need a liner or walnut to do my dark design. So I'm going to use Rogue Liner because I've got it close to hand. We'll do a pup date in a little while. I think I've got a pup date. The final pup date before I bring home my new puppy. So, yeah, it'll be the... Then you guys will start getting puppy cam. Remember, I'll be gone till next Friday. No streams from Anne. Anne will be gallivanting about in the American West. I'm going to do a 2-to-1 mix here with the Rogue Shadow to water. It's 4 drops of paint, 2 drops of water. It's going to make it quite thin. However, Rogue Shadow does have a fair coverage for a liner paint, and so that's going to be actually a pretty good sketching consistency. Remember that when you first start putting down your freehand pattern, having your paint be a bit thin, even just so you can just see it, is fine. You can always go back over the lines to neaten them up, and you're probably going to want to adjust them anyway to make them better. No singing at Paint Club, Shadow Raven. Alrighty, so now we need to figure out where I'm going to place this this oblong shape. I could do it closer to the bottom, but I think I'm going to try to do it more kind of centered at the top, because then the little ears can kind of touch the sides here. So I think that's what I want to do, and then I don't have a lot of room to deal with up here. So I think the top, we're going to do a connect the dots. The top part of that horn is going to be there, and the top part of that horn is going to be there. And then I want to bow it out and bring it down to, I think, around here. I think around here. So do your connect the dots. It lets you kind of space equally from both sides before you start drawing your design. So that's the 1 dot is here, the 1 dot is there, and the 1 dot is there. So those are those 3 dots. If you're not good with your brush and doing drawings, then I recommend doing your sketch also with the brush, and also making it closer to the size, or doing another one closer to the size. It's kind of halfway between Classic Bones and Bones USA, Ron. The Bones Black Plastic is holds detail a little better than Classic Bones. It's a little bit harder than Classic Bones. It's like a middle ground. We painted a Bones Black model. Where is he? We painted a Bones Black model here. This guy is a Bones Black. So as you can see, the detailing is still pretty good. All of his little pouches and the bandolier showed up. All of his little details on his horns and that kind of thing. So this guy is a Bones Black. There we go. Male pattern baldness bands. The Tiefling, yeah, he's cool, the Warlock. So I would say, like, literally, Reaper was iterating on Bones, and Bones Black was the first iteration. And then when they discovered the Siocast process, then they created Bones USA, which is the next iteration. But it's not really the same material. Siocast material is different from the PVC that Bones is done in. So I would say that as far as holding detail and being maybe being a little stronger, Bones Black, I think, is a little bit better than the basic Bones. But I think that with larger models, the basic Bones is absolutely cool. I mean, Sphinxy is a basic Bones. And, I mean, she's just a Bones model. Just regular old Bones. And she's bigger, so she looks great. So, I mean, all of Reaper's materials are cool. I would expect a lot of the Bones Black, though, to go... I mean, we're doing kind of a combo these days with the Kickstarter fulfillment. But eventually, depending on how we can scale up the Siacast, it wouldn't surprise me to see Bones Black stuff ported over into just the Siacast, except for any big models. Just because we don't have a solution for bigger stuff yet for Siacast. All right, so now let's sketch this up. No, Bones USA is as good as resin, so it's extremely high quality. Or it's close anyway. It's very close to as good as resin. So let's just make a little curved line here to get our shape blocked in. Down to there. And then we're going to do the same over here. So we've got our beginning thing. I mean, Bones USA is, I think, the Reaper Legends line and stuff is very good. It's just that there's not a lot available in it yet. So if you want the most variety choices, go and do some metal. It's probably still the highest availability. Although maybe Classic Bones is the highest availability. I'm not sure anymore. Alright, so we want to make our little ears here, the top set or horns. And then I'm going to just kind of bring this back down, curve it at the bottom. There. Now we go back to our reference model. We need to do our little ears coming off the side and our little curls in the middle. So I've got my little ears here. And a little ear over on this side, and kind of space it so they're about equidistant at the same height. So there's our little ears. Then we need to do 2 little curls. We can just make 2 little arches to start those out. And expand them a little bit once we've got our shape in. And we can... Liners are great for drawing this stuff because they're so nice and thin already that adding the water lets you do really, really delicate work with freehand. So we've got our little heart shape here. I'm just going to connect these actually because I like that. And let's see here. Next we need whiskers. We need our little whiskers coming off the bottom here. And now I need to look at my shape and see where we're going from here. So our shape is that. So now we have kind of this central form here. We can look at whether we want to connect the top or break that up somehow. We're going to have to because we aren't doing this design, so we don't have this panel up here to work into it. So we've got 2 curving lines that come in here to connect the whiskers and to bring it down here, and we've got a long tongue that's sticking down as well. So I think both of those elements can be brought in somewhat. So let's sketch in that tongue, and I'm going to bring that tongue almost down to the bottom. Ron, if you've never painted before, then Reaper's 2 Learn to Paint kits are excellent starting points. Rhonda wrote the text for it, and she's really good at describing step by step. She's really good at breaking stuff down. So I would say, yeah, it's a good place to start. Interesting. Didn't realize that this was a separate section. I'm going to do that. So as I look closer, I realize that this kind of heart shape is kind of a separate thing, and then the tongue actually comes out as kind of a separate piece. So I'm going to do a little bit of a jump there, make a little arch. We'll bring that down. But yeah, I think that if you have not painted before, or if you have not painted in a Coon's Age and you need to get back into the hobby, then our Learn to Paint kits are a great place to do it. The first kit is more basic, base coating, washing, dry brushing kind of thing. But don't be fooled, because like it's still a useful kit even if you think that you've got those techniques, because it teaches you specifically to use Master Series. So if you're coming from a while back, like if you painted a while ago and you're just picking it up again, then the paint you used ages ago is a lot different from MSP. So Learn to Paint Kit 1 can still be very useful to you, because she's going to give you the ratios to use to mix for all these different techniques, specifically for Master Series, which is very different. Alrighty, so I need whiskers and I need curlicues. So let's do some curlicues. Then I'm going to start blocking all this in. So curlicue comes in. It went a bit thick there, but that's okay. And we'll bring it in about the same level. You could put dots first to make sure these are spaced right. And again, since we've got like folds in this cloak, if stuff is not perfectly centered or perfectly aligned, it's not a big deal. Because the folds are going to throw off the eye anyway. So just get it close. Remember, you can always adjust it. And I'm going to bring this up in a little bit of a curl. And this one up in a bit of a curl. And then I want to bring down whiskers. So I can bring in a whisker here, and maybe here, which is not from the original drawing. The tongue didn't have any of these spurs or arches coming off, but because I've changed the design, I would like to make it more this way. Kind of make this like a pointy tail instead. And then I'll fill out these guys. So now I'm going to just extrapolate from the shapes that I already know are used on this design. So we have curving lines, we have little spikes, and we have curving lines that are tipped by little spikes. That's pretty much what we're dealing with here, right? You've got curves which end at little spikes, you know, then there's more little spikes, and then you've got a curve that ends in a spike, right? So you can see that this is a common thing with this design, and so you can just grab it and run with it after this. Don't even need your reference photo anymore. Yeah, everything is included in the Learn to Paint kit, Ron. You don't need anything else. So you could certainly, like, if you wanted to get your own brushes and use those, you could, but the paint kit does come with its own brushes as well. It's a really good start. And I'm going to fill in these guys. Now, if I want to come back and narrow down this design like I did up here, it's going to be a little harder because the orange is so transparent, but it's still possible. As I was talking about last time, all you need to do is put down white first and put the orange over the top. So it's an extra step, but it's not undoable. I'm going to fill in all my darks. And once I have these all filled in, I'm going to have a better idea of what else I want to do. There we go. And filling in just all of our little things to get a feel for how the overall shape is coming out. Once you remove all those little lines and you get just everything filled in, you have a better feel. Hey Valendar, how's it going? Yes, that's true. Monday afternoons is Rhonda streaming on this channel, so you can ask questions and stuff. Yeah, we have like over 300 episodes in this show we're on, so like, and I cover all sorts of topics on all sorts of miniatures. And Rhonda has many episodes of her show up on our YouTube as well. So you could start at the beginning and just watch through the whole dang thing if you really wanted to. All right, I'm going to put a little bit more of a hook at the top of the horns here, just to fit more with what I'm done down below. But yeah, at this point I've been doing this for years, and there's a lot. I think I've answered almost every question possible at this point. At least once, somewhere. And usually multiple times. So that's more bold and simple. And now we can maybe add in, because remember we've got more claws breaking up the space. Have that up here. So let's break up the space a little bit more. And what I can do is I could actually bring in, I could either make these little bits at the end here curved down. I think I'm going to, or I can make them curve in more with the claw, but I think I'm going to curve them down. To make kind of a circular shape, because that's kind of what we started with. So now that's really looking like a WoW cloak, actually. I'm going to actually connect these guys both up to the shadow underneath here. So that's cool. I think Iron Joker, like, I think, yes. Oh, and the Discord has playlists for several of my projects. Thanks, Trash. So everybody remember that. All right, so that actually looks a lot like a WoW design. Like, being bigger and bolder like that, it really, really does. So that's pretty cool. All right, and now we can question whether we want to fill in some orange with some purple and some purple with some orange. That could be fun. Though to do that, I might need to block in something dark and go back into it. Swap, kind of swap in, swap out kind of thing here. That's an interesting idea. Oh, yeah. I don't remember if I think I've thrown one mini across the room just to try it out, and I just didn't enjoy it, so I didn't do it after that. That was one I really hated back when I was a staff painter at Reaper. I'm actually going to fill this in dark. Fill it in dark. I'm going to come back into it with orange. I'm going to try a little bit of a alternating thing up here. And then we'll do the same thing down here with purple somewhere. Maybe the center section. So now we're going to play around and we're going to swap in some orange up top and some purple down below. Oh, I've trash canned minis. Yeah, like throwing minis across the room may not be satisfying, but I have definitely trash canned a couple of minis in the course of my life. It's very, very freeing. I mean, honestly, I should have like found a new home for them with somebody who would love them, but yeah, sometimes the angst is too strong. Boing. All right, let's do a 2-to-1 on the pure white. So now we're going to block in some areas and swap our colors around, just cause. Alrighty. Yeah, melt binning a mini has definitely happened for me too back when I was working at Reaper. This is where I once again recommend the Faceless Horror as practice for eyeballs. Everybody's favorite Faceless Horror. Doo -doo -doo. Great eyeball practice. Start with the bigger eyeballs and work your way down to the smaller eyeballs. All right, so we're going to block this in with orange, and that means we're going to be doing white first. So I went over this with my Rogue Liner. And now I'm going to leave a double rim kind of around it. I want a dark rim next to my white one. Because I want to put a spot of orange up here and a spot of purple down below. Because we're fancy. We are very fancy. And so we're going to do this. But to be consistent, I want a dark border around the orange up there. And I want white underpainting the purple down here. And maybe I'll put some gold in eventually. Because that's what the white is going to be eventually, is gold. Oh yeah, that's serious. That's serious aggression there if you're snapping resin minis. Although to be fair, some of them are so delicate that you could probably look at them angrily and they would snap at the ankles or at the wrist. Just touching this up, going back and forth. Because they're the ones that have tons of eyeballs, Big Apple. I mean, you could all just like line up an assembly line of like mook characters that you don't really care much about and just paint their eyeballs one after the other. That would be roughly the same thing. It would just mean like painting eyeballs on a lot of different figures. And also, I think that's a common, actually you bring up an interesting and common misconception, Big Apple. The best way to teach yourself something is not to sit at it for hours. The best way to teach yourself something is to sit at it for maybe half an hour, really work at it, and then give yourself a break and go do something else. That common misconception that to get better at something, you have to sit and do it and do it and do it. I really feel that that is not the case for many, many people. Sure, there are people who certainly can and will do that sort of tactic for learning, and maybe it works for them. But overall, I find that rest periods are key for our brain to kind of relax and process what we've just done. And so if you are sitting with a project long enough to get super frustrated with it, consider whether it might serve you better to take a break. Oh yeah, if there was a question and I missed it, then repeat it. When people get to chatting, and then it gets easy to lose questions in the chat. All right, so I think I'm going to go with purple down here in this cutout right here, and maybe also for the heart. So I'm going to block that in white. Not because the purple doesn't cover, but because I'll get a more vibrant color over white. Fair enough. Just, but I wanted to bring up that point, Big Apple, because I find that that is, like, people do get confused about that. Like, they do think that you need to, like, sit there for ages. That you're not learning something unless you're sitting there and working at it. I find this is a common misconception in many disciplines. Probably the most frustrating one for me is in puppy training. Like, I was looking at puppy classes. They're all like an hour long. People, your puppy checks out after the first 15 minutes. Like, it's too much. I find that our miniature painter brains are similar to puppy brains. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, they're fragile. Those Kingdom Death minis, they're fragile, and they come in ridiculous amounts of pieces with no put it together guide, so fair. Alrighty. So that, and then do I want to do that, or do I want to alternate? I could make it purple up here, though that would be getting close to that. I think maybe I should make these ears closed. And if I made these ears closed, then I could make those ear sections purple. I think I'll do that. So now I'm just directly extrapolating off my original design and ignoring my original concept because I want something different. And that's fair too. Just because you start working with a concept doesn't mean that you have to keep to that concept. If you want to change it, change it. Yeah, cat training sessions like max out at 10 minutes for sure. And for baby puppies, like when I get this puppy home, her training sessions are going to be 1 to 2 minutes. Because that's all her little puppy brain can handle. Because training is putting pressure on an animal. You're asking it to pay attention to you for long periods, for as far as the animal, you know, to consciously pay attention to you and to learn something. And just like with small kids, like that's just a lot of like focus and energy, and it's difficult. It's difficult for young beasts, and some of us old beasts too. So yeah, if you find that you're getting frustrated, because remember, no matter how much you love the hobby, and no matter how much you want to learn a thing, frustration is the enemy of you loving your hobby. That's why I take so much pains on this show to kind of set you guys up to succeed and try to answer all your questions. I want to save you from that frustration because it will, honestly, over time, it can make you burn out to hit that frustration point too many times, and then you give up on the hobby. And maybe you think, oh, maybe I didn't like this hobby as much as I thought. But no, maybe not that. Maybe just, maybe just pushing yourself and not taking breaks. Even when we love a thing, it's advisable, especially when we learn it, when we're learning it, it's advisable to take breaks and do other things. That doesn't mean we don't adore the thing. It just allows us to go over, freshen up our brains and come back excited to work on it again. I really do consider frustration to be a huge joy killer with the hobby. There we go. So we've got that coming in. But it won't stay white. That's the thing. Just poster putty, blue tack. He's like not really firmly set on there, but octopus pie. This is just poster putty, and I'll just smush him down into that. Sometimes I'll wrap the poster putty a little bit up around the base if they don't stick very well. Yeah, no problem. Be aware of octopus. This is actually kind of a mix of like 2 or 3 different types of blue tack. Some blue tacks are really sticky and some are more unsticky but stronger. So I usually use a mix of like actual blue tack and then mounting putty, which is a gray putty, which is why I've got more of a blue-gray color here. If you mess around and see, the problem with the really sticky ones is that they get stringy and they stick too well to the base. It's hard to get them off. Yay! Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a lot of hobbies too, so I totally feel that. But it's good. It's good. And what you find over time, what I really love about starting a new creative hobby, like I just did with the crocheting and knitting stuff, is that it puts me more in touch with beginners, with being a beginner in a hobby. And because I teach so many beginners, I feel like that's a really good thing for me. It really puts me in mind that, the very simplest things can feel even overwhelming when you're a beginner. So it's a good thing to keep in my mind. Purple. Now I'm using actually a mixture of the Imperial and the highlight, my first highlight color here, because I wanted it to be a little bit lighter. This paint's real thin, but that's okay. I can build it up if I want. Now the nice thing about having all this room to work and all this big area, big bold area for the freehand, is that we can shade and highlight each of these individual little sections in our design. Whereas up here it'll be a lot harder because everything is so close together. Yeah, thanks for showing up, Shadow Raven. Wait, Shadow Raven, wait. Can you wait? Can you wait for a second? There might be puppies. I don't want you to miss the pup date. It's the last pup date. Oh yeah, it's the noise ball. What the hell? Some puppies are excited by the ball making noise, and some are not. There we go. When it starts making noise, some of the puppies like run to it, and some of the puppies run away from it. Percy really likes the noisemaker, though. That's Vex and Vax in there, and Percy and Scanlan.
Oh, wow. Wow. Isn't that so much fun, guys? What? What the hell? What is that? It's very exciting is what it is. Oh, I can't believe it. It's crazy.
Big Apple, our breed doesn't work like that. We do a puppy evaluation, and then we get a puppy based on how well it fits our criteria. When you fill out a puppy application, you kind of say, you know, what kind of temperament you're looking for and stuff like that. So I will not know until I do the puppy evaluation on Saturday. Once we do that evaluation, we'll sit down and we'll score the puppies as far as we do both confirmations, so who's a breed quality puppy and who's a pet. And then we also do temperament, which also contributes to who's a pet. Obviously, like if you have a very afraid puppy or noise-sensitive puppy or a very shy puppy, that puppy is going to be a pet rather than a breeding animal. But yeah, so once we've got all that done, then I'll look at the temperaments because I don't want a puppy that's too headstrong because David has never had a dog before. Oh, I'm going for a girl. I like the girls in our breed. They're a little more serious, Lady Nim. A little less goofball. I like the serious dog. Kiri was a very serious dog, my last Shiloh, so. But yeah, so I'll look at the temperaments of the 3 girls, and temperament is really key for me, and then I'll look at like the physical characteristics. And then we'll choose. I have first pick, so essentially I'm the first one. I'm the first one in line. I was the first breed quality person in line on this litter, I think. Yeah, it's and this litter also is kind of important for our gene pool, Big Apple, because it's an outcross litter, so it actually has a different breed in its background that we're trying to slowly spread that genetic diversity through our lines. So these puppies are pretty important. So I'm really psyched to do the evaluation and to see who's who. See what kind of temperaments we got, see what kind of traits. But yeah, we do that at 8 weeks, and we do it to every litter in our organization. Every single litter gets a litter evaluation at 8 weeks. Yeah, the temperament testing is fascinating. It's super cool to see those little personalities. All right, so let's get some orange out, and let's pop that together just so we have that on the model. I'm going to use, I think I used Sunrise with a little bit of oxide in it. So I'm going to grab that oxide. I put a little bit of the red oxide into my oranges to give them better coverage. But yeah, so it'll be fun. We'll be running them through paces. I'm going to be the evaluator, which means I score the puppies, and then I've got an experienced tester, who's the person who actually runs the puppies through the test. You have to kind of be 2 separate people like that because you have to be able to kind of look at the puppies as they're going through things. And when you're doing the testing, you can't really see everything. So I'm going to grab my orange. Pendrake, what you're looking for with headstrongness is you're watching the puppy as it goes through these tests. And there are tests where the tester really seeks to get the puppy to interact. And like the retrieve test and things, and there's also a tug test. So a puppy that really wants to please the tester, that always is walking with the tester, that's trying to make eye contact, that's playing, actively engaging with the tester, the more sociable puppy is usually the less headstrong puppy. The puppy who's very independent and who doesn't really give a crap what you're doing. And just kind of wanders off and does her own thing or his own thing. And then a puppy that's really going to fight you for the tug, for example, like those are going to be a more headstrong puppy. They're more willing to challenge you. They're more willing to just kind of brush you off. They're not as focused on interacting and pleasing you. So the more pleasing drive you have, usually the less headstrong you have, and the easier it is to train that dog. The more headstrong puppy, which is what we call more usually a harder temperament, that's a dog you've got to convince that you are worth following. Some of the really hardcore working line German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois and stuff are very much like that. And it's rare in Shilohs to get a truly like hard temperament puppy, but it does happen. It does happen. All right, so I mixed a little bit of my oxide in, and it's still really bright. I'm going to put just a little bit more of my red oxide into the orange to get a little better coverage. So, but it's a whole, like, it's an organic process. So keep in mind when we're doing temperament testing, we're actually running the puppies through 10 consecutive tests. And we're doing everything from noise sensitivity to startle response to problem solving. And in all of those tests, we're looking at what the puppy's actually doing, like the puppy's generalized behavior. So one test doesn't give us a result, an overall result for headstrong, but how the puppy tackles a number of tests does. We're also looking at how forgiving the puppy is as well, and like how willing the puppy is to like be restrained. Like if you're holding the puppy, does the puppy get frustrated and want to get away from you, or does the puppy like happily wait while you hold her? Right? And those will give you an idea whether a puppy is really going to be a handful or whether a puppy is going to be really acquiescent to what her human asks her to do. So it's every puppy's just a ball of clay, and obviously nurture has a lot to do as well. Nature and nurture are partners in this, but the puppy evaluation gives you a good foundation on who is that puppy right now, and that lets you talk to your puppy people and say, hey, this puppy's a great puppy, she's a really fast learner, she's super smart. Be aware that, say, maybe she has a little noise sensitivity, or be aware that she is a little headstrong, so you're going to have to work on focus, or she's maybe a scatterbrain and you need to work on focus. So yeah, so a lot of people, there's like no real like conclusive studies, official studies on whether temperament testing works, but I mean, Guide Dogs for the Blind are the ones who developed this program so that they would be able to better choose which puppies will go on to be successful guide dogs, because it's $100,000 easy investment in every single guide dog candidate. So it's really worth your while to be able to figure out which pups have, and that came out really light, so I need to darken this orange. I probably used volcanic instead, and I totally forgot. Yeah, I bet I did. So let's get a little bit of volcanic, and then we'll at least get this orange blocked in. But yeah, I personally feel that temperament testing does work, but only when you have a very good evaluator. Like, your evaluator needs to be really good at canine body language, has to understand dogs. I've put about a decade of my life at this point, a little more than a decade, into learning this stuff, because I started apprenticing for temperament evaluating when I started in the breed a little bit after that. That was back in like 2008. So, and I've tried very hard to get better at reading dogs and understanding what their body language means. So I think that really you could have a puppy evaluation that just wasn't really good if your evaluator wasn't really good at body language. But then you could also have just a really good, get a really good read. We make our evaluators go through like a dozen litter evaluations under different people. They have to apprentice to become evaluators. So I feel like we do a pretty good job, and that's why we have so few rescues. Yeah, that volcanic orange was definitely the ticket. So there. Haha. And now, actually, let me grab, we'll just go just a tiny bit late today. Maybe. Quindy. I'm going to grab and do just a little bit, and I'm going to fill in the white with the gold, just so we can get an idea how it all looks. Oh yeah, have fun. Well, if it's cool and rainy, that's Irish, isn't it? Just kind of like Scottish. I remember Ireland as being quite cool and rainy when I was there, but then I often went in the springtime because it was cheaper to travel there. Same with Scotland, though. All right, now let's paint over this white, and then we'll end the stream for the day and for a while yet to come. And I'm just going to paint this over the top, and I don't have to worry about being perfect on this because the purple underneath really isn't shaded or highlighted at all, so I'm not, if I blorf it, it's really not going to affect anything that I can't fix instantly. Just a base coat. I've thinned my rich leather about 4-to-1 here. 4 paint, 1 water. Yeah, the one thing I'm not looking forward to about tomorrow is getting up at 6 a.m. It will help me prepare for the time zone change, however, so I'm not going to be too whiny about it. Because it's 2 hours earlier where I'm going. Yeah, I don't know. I always went to, I think I was in Scotland in April, and I was in Ireland in March and in April. And I liked the weather, but I like rain. So the rest of my day today after the stream, guys, is going to be totally just prepping for the trip. It's a bunch of stuff I need to get ready and packed. There we go. So that's just, you can tell I need another coat to make the gold really good, but that's looking pretty cool, actually. And once I start maybe filling in some of this stuff with gold as well, let's just do it real quick. Why not? You guys won't see me for a whole week, so if we fill in some of this dark, and then we put some gold in it. Then we can get more of a feel for how our ending design is going to start to look. So so that's what we're looking at. Like, so we've got some purple and some orange. We're swapping around different panels of them at this point. I may even do another orange panel kind of at the edges here. I haven't decided, but I could totally do it. And I'll be filling in more golden stuff as well. But this is looking cool. This is much more intricate up here than it is down here. I'll have to decide if that's really what I'm aiming for, or if I maybe want to simplify this. And this goes back and forth, guys. If I decide that this is too intricate and it's not enough in the spirit of kind of the big, bold wow design that we have down here, I will absolutely paint over all of this and just redo a design. Do a much more simple one. And I won't be afraid to do that. Much as I put a lot of effort into this design, if it doesn't go with the overall effect, like, I'll trash it, sure. So be willing to do that. Like, don't get too attached to the work you've done. Best if you just keep it in mind that, well, we're just going to give this a try. If we don't like it, I'm just going to paint over it. Like, that's totally an awesome mindset to have, because then that takes the pressure off of you. Because when you're doing this kind of thing, you're going to be tempted to like sweat about getting it perfect. But if it's just going to be, we're just going to toss this down and see if I even like the effect, and if not, I'll paint over it. If you have that mindset, you'll be a lot less stressed about trying stuff like this freehand. You're just going to be, let's just try it. So that kind of thing. Alrighty. So, any questions? What we did today is we did a lot of freehand talk. Yay! We also talked about different types of bones material, and we talked about the Learn to Paint kits and like all that fun stuff. I feel like our wizard is, I really like the bottom design here. I think I might redo the top, but I really think it's pretty cool. So this is coming along really well. Yes, the Great Puppy Adventure in 2 days, a little more than 2 days, probably the evening on Saturday, I will know which puppy I get. So yeah, then we'll know who the new Pro Tips puppy is. Pro Tips Puppy. Oh, and remember, yes, it's Josh also. So definitely come back and give Josh some love. I will not be on until any stream anywhere until next Friday. Hopefully we'll have a puppy cam. Yeah, thanks, Julie. I'm kind of stressed about the road trip. Well, hopefully it'll go okay. All right. I will talk to you guys in. Yes, can't wait to meet the puppy. I can't wait to meet the puppy either. All right, guys, have a great one. I hope you have a great weekend too. Bye-bye.